Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 3. Today we're going to be doing my review / breakdown for episode 12, so if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. Okay guys, so we've had a week break. It felt actually like longer, obviously considering that we barely have any DCTV shows on right now. But obviously this episode comes after knowing that we're getting a season 4, so they are setting up this new story with Lex Luthor and it's going to be huge. It was just announced, as well as season 4, that the actor who plays Lex Luthor will be around next season and he's going to be a series regular, so that's very exciting for Michael Cudlitz and for those of us who are very excited to see his version of Lex Luthor. And so this is a true Lex Luthor episode. This is the first time that we see him, and so the beginning of the episode, and we're going to go through this chronologically, break this episode down bit by bit, starts off with an article saying something about Bruno Mannheim's confession and the fact that they actually set Lex up in order to take the fall for them, when it was actually onomatopoeia that killed Boss Moxie and actually sent Lex to prison. And Lois narrates the opening and she talks about healing and getting better. She is still getting used to her new look, obviously post operation that she had done in the last episode. And it continues with Lois posting an article about Lex being innocent and that news being received by Lex in prison. And so he gets ready to leave as he receives word of his release. We get our first look at Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor, and I gotta say straight up, he looks like a scary Lex Luthor. Like, he looks like John Cryer, but like 100 times scarier. John Cryer has a kind face, I feel like. Obviously we all know him from his sitcoms and different things like that. You know, we all are kind of used to him being a nice person, so that's why we were surprised in Supergirl that he was a really good Lex. But this is going to be a very different type of Lex, as you can just tell from this episode. He is a brutal, badass version of Lex that basically takes no for an answer. And so Lois is called by a reporter friend from Metropolis about a new hero in Smallville, and Lois apparently trained her back in the day, so you know she was bound to get on this and actually break it down, despite Lois obviously trying not to give her too much information or leads in regards to who this new superhero is in Smallville. And obviously this leads to some big drama in this episode, which we'll get to it when we get to it. But Lex arrives in prison in a flashback when we see Lois wearing this very cool hat, by the way, as he went into prison because of her and because of the article and, you know, the publicity that got him sent away. And so this is a theme throughout this episode. We keep on seeing Lex in the present, then we go back to the past. We kind of figure out what type of Lex this Lex is. And so he's basically walking all the way home throughout this entire episode, but we don't know what direction exactly he's heading. He has refused to take a lift or anything. He's walking somewhere with the intention of something that he's been thinking about for a very long time. And we see a photo of his daughter. We know that that is some sort of motivation as to what he is about to do. And so yeah, he's free. And Kyle, back in Smallville in the meantime, is protecting Jonathan from one of his colleagues who is basically super rude to Jonathan because he messed up an order, which was out of order, by the way. And yeah, this actor, not so good. Definitely probably my least favorite scene of the episode, but that's always a one-off with Superman Lois because it's so good. And I have to emphasize, this episode was amazing. Like, I loved this episode. I was engaged from start to finish. But Lana has the next scene as she goes to the Smallville Gazette to confront Clark and Lois just subtly about how Jordan is enjoying being super too much, and the fact that it's affected Sarah, obviously with Junior snooping around being like, oh, I know this person's true. He was actually the person that reached out to the Daily Planet reporter who obviously has been sniffing around. And this has put Sarah in an awkward situation and not a good situation for at least her mental health, but also just in general, it's just not very good for her. And so let's go back to Lex, because we get to another flashback as Lex walks up to a prisoner, and I guess he's like the normal prison hairdresser who has a razor, and basically he takes a beating with this razor. Like, clearly you can see Lex is a big man and he knows what he's all about, and he's willing to take a beating in order to make a point, and he certainly does make a point. And obviously he's got wealth, he's got power, and all these people are basically naive. They're like, okay, he's just like a normal prisoner coming in here, but no, he's got other plans. And I feel like that's the way that this Lex Luthor is going to work. He's going to be scheming, and he's going to be doing things that are kind of unexpected, just like the way that he is released this episode, because no one knows where he is, and what he does is unexpected. And so I think that's kind of the main thing we should take away from the scene with him being beaten up. But Clark and Lois talk to Jordan about his secret identity after Lana confronted them, and so Clark makes him hand in his suit. No powers in public for now, he says. And so Jordan is basically grounded because of what's been going on. Obviously Sarah is a little bit upset and distressed that Lana told Lois and Clark about Jordan, and basically she's just in this kind of weird spot right now. And later in the episode, Jordan and Sarah talk at the diner, but they are interrupted by a tornado. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's hop back, because Kyle is super excited to talk to Clark as Superman gives him a visit, but he asks a favor. And obviously this favor is a little bit of a downer, because, you know, he's been acting this way because I think he's just excited that, you know, he's got Superman's kid around, and, you know, it's just like a whole new perspective for him. But this doesn't really go the way that Jonathan would like it to go. And so let's go back to Lex. So in the past, again, he tries to get the prison warden on his side, and at first the prison warden's like, if you're not going to bribe me, like, what are you doing here? But then he gives him a phone number, and it's his home phone number, and you know at this point, oh my god, this Lex is brutal. Like, what is he gonna do? And so Lex's guys are on the other end of the phone, on his family phone, saying that they have his son and they have his wife. And so this is clearly what caused the warden in present day to be so up Lex's ass, like we've seen since the start of the episode. And we pretty much knew from the start, like, he definitely gets control of that prison, and he has something on everyone, because he has so much power on the outside, but also that influences the power that he has on the inside. And so from the start to the end, it looks extremely different from when he first showed up to when he's leaving, because literally everyone's just working for him. And so yeah, he's absolutely brutal. He's willing to do anything, and obviously in this case he's just working his power in order to have like a kind of comfy life while still being in prison, which is not an ideal situation. Obviously you would kind of think someone with that much power would be able to break themselves out, but I guess he wants to get out the proper way, and that's because of his daughter. And I guess that's just something that he wouldn't want to do. I don't want to say he would never do, because yes, it probably has gone into his mind, it's popped up because he is that powerful, but I guess it's just a decision that he made. And so the warden didn't give Lois a heads up. They pretty much know something's up because of this. And so Lois wants to go to Metropolis or wherever Lex shows up and actually confront him, because she feels it's inevitable that he's going to come back to her for revenge, or at least to get like some sort of word in with her, because it's been literal decades since she put him away due to her reporting, which obviously turned out to be false and doctored by Onomatopoeia and Bruno Mannheim. And so the prison guards beat the hell out of these other prisoners back in another flashback. They were the ones who originally attacked him. Obviously this is after he gained control with the prison warden, so things are shifting his way. And so Lex is kind of walking this entire episode. As I said, he does show up in an unexpected place. Even the Luthor Corp workers are surprised that he was released in the morning, according to Lois. And they are surprised because this is not really his style, not announcing that he's going to be back or anything like that. It's clear that he is doing something with a vendetta, with true purpose, and so we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, let's talk about that tornado, because that was kind of unexpected. It came out of nowhere as Jordan and Sarah were talking at the diner, and so they were interrupted by this tornado warning. And you can see in the background there's a tornado ripping through Smallville. You see General Lane with a bunch of people in the middle of nowhere, and also the people on Main Street in Smallville. And so Sarah's trying to help out the people in the diner to get them into safety. Obviously this is something that's happened before, because they are in Kansas. Even in real life this happens a lot, so I guess they're just, you know, paying homage to the geography and like literally the way that the land works in America and the way that the environment works. And so obviously Superman has to try and stop it from destroying the entirety of Smallville if it does actually go rampant, and it's very dangerous to people. It's like literally ripping up cars into the air. I think at one point it even takes General Lane's entire truck into the air, and it's actually Jordan who shows up to put the car down and make sure it doesn't hurt anyone. And you have to consider this is after Jordan has been grounded by his parents, and so he is going full on rebel here. And so he shows up in the tornado as Superman circles the tornado, trying to prevent it as he basically sucks out all the air from the tornado or whatever he was doing. And so Jordan shows up to try and help. He sees the superhero suit in his granddad's car, and so he puts it on. He goes up, and Clark denies that he needs Jordan's help, but Jordan wants to help because, you know, he's being rebellious, but also, you know, he is clearly very powerful. But it's at this point that everything goes sideways. Well, maybe not entirely, but obviously it's a shocking moment as Jordan is exposed to the world, as the tornado survivors find him in the open after he's helped save them with Superman, and they're taking selfies, they're taking videos of him being like, this is the new Superman of Smallville who has superpowers, who is helping out. And Jordan just doesn't care about the rules that he is being given. You can see by Superman's face, he does not approve of this. And so back at home, Lois, Clark, General Lane, they're all extremely mad. Well, less so General Lane. He's just, you know, kind of warning them that he's gone rogue and he needs to be careful, because if they do not rein him in, someone will eventually track him down to where he lives and who he actually is. And obviously that could become a huge danger for the family. This is something that Superman takes great care in. I don't know what he specifically does when he flies off, but Jordan needs to be more careful, and he storms away as he tries to leave the room because he's just totally disagreeing. He just doesn't care about their rules, and he actually bumps into Clark, and it's a loud ass bump. He hits him pretty damn hard, but obviously being Superman, he doesn't move, but you see an entire shockwave. And so he goes upstairs, obviously he's grounded, and he talks to his brother about their problems, and basically they're in a similar situation but in different circumstances. And I really like this scene because Jonathan actually admitted to Jordan that it was pretty badass seeing him up there with Superman actually stopping that tornado. And so, you know, it's nice that someone is being nice about Jordan using his powers and actually being really good at using his powers as far as we know right now. But just after this scene, an insane moment happens, and that's when Lex shows up at their doorstep in Smallville, and I was lost for words. Obviously we knew that he was going somewhere with all that walking he was doing the entire episode, but he has shown up at Superman and Lois's doorstep with revenge on his mind. And so he just briefly talks to them, you know, they get chatting for like a short few seconds, and Clark and Lois are like, why are you here? And then Lex instantly breaks out into furious anger as Lois tries to apologize for getting it all wrong, but he is not having any of it. And Lex tells Lois, not really tells, he kind of instructs her to retire so he can never read her words again. That's his one demand. Obviously he has all the power, and pretty much this is a threat that he will stay true to. You can guarantee that. And so obviously Lois feels safe because Superman is quite literally standing right next to her and she doesn't have anything to worry about. However, don't underestimate Lex. He can definitely get at her if he wants to, despite Lois having that protection. And so, yeah, he controls the entire prison where he was, and he's so powerful, and yet he couldn't escape. But I feel like there is a reason for that, as I mentioned earlier. But he's basically here in Smallville to confront Lois, and then he's literally just leaving with his henchmen as he arrives. And so basically it was just a warning for Lois that he means business now that he is back. And so clearly Lois and Clark are going to have to work on trying to put him away once and for all and get rid of all the power that he has. But that's going to be extremely tough, and we're going to find out what he does next in the next episode. But what happens is they're setting up something huge for the ending of the season, which is the finale, which is going to be happening next week, and also season 4, because we know Lex is going to be a series regular. But as Lex gets into the car with his henchmen, he actually reveals that he found Dr. Hook. He beat the hell out of him, and they now know all about what Bruno has been doing, and the fact that Bizarro, a form of Superman, is down in the basement, and clearly Lex thinks he can do something with him, and obviously this is going to be very bad for Superman, as Bizarro is seen eating rats in the basement, which used to be Bruno Mannheim's old lab with Dr. Hook and everyone. And so they did experiments on him, and as we saw in the previous episode, Bizarro is back and he is going wild. He's almost like this wild animal, and he, at the end of the episode, even eats Lex's henchman. Well, it sounds like that's what happened. It was an insane ending to the episode that I was not expecting, and it was quite brutal, to be honest. And so I'm interested to see how Lex gets a hold of Bizarro and actually controls him, considering right now he is completely wild and seemingly untamable. I think this Bizarro we're going to see in the next episode is going to be more like Bizarro in the comics, who is controlled by others, and obviously the one intention is to kill Superman because that's what he's been brainwashed to believe. And I think Lex is going to be doing this in the next episode and is going to be setting that all up. And so in the meantime, Jonathan, Lois and Clark speculate about what Lex is planning as he arrives at that location. In the meantime, Sarah goes to dye her hair because she wants to get rid of basically her old self and move forward into the future without Jordan and being a new person. I wonder how they take this in the next episode, because obviously we found out the news that literally all of the series regulars are not going to be a thing next season. They might be recurring characters, and if Jordan and Jonathan move back to Metropolis, this is clearly going to be a good reason for all of those characters to not show up so much if they all stay in Smallville, which we presume they will. There's no reason for Sarah and her family to move to Metropolis. And so if they actually go with this and she actually avoids Jordan in this last episode, I guess it would end decently in terms of why she is around less. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see as to how everything plays out. But right now, super excited for more Lex Luthor and to see what exactly is going to be happening with Bizarro in the next episode and going into season 4. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It really helps out the channel. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.